Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. Good morning. We're running a little bit behind, but that's okay. We had a microphone issue, but now it's all worked out. And good morning to everyone who's online joining us as well. It's always an exciting time. Even though I'm not in the classroom as much as you guys are right now, I still get that same excitement and renewed energy about going back to another academic year. And with all the changes and transitions that we have going on that started back in the spring that are carrying over, when we were giving thought to what we wanted our Welcome Week learning and development to look like for academics, we kind of decided we're going to go back to basics. We have a lot in transition. We went through the catalog line by line this summer. We have changes in a number of areas. And we have welcomed a lot of new faculty this fall as well. And so we decided, hey, let's go back to the beginning. Let's all look at what we're doing, where we're going, be able to answer some questions. And so for today, you have Sharon, who's going to talk with you this morning about the Registrar's office. This afternoon, you have Dr. Railsback, who's going to talk about active learning. And then tomorrow we have our meeting on our new campus, which is absolutely breathtaking. I can't wait for everyone to get inside our new building and see what our future campus looks like. And then on Thursday, you have a presentation by, let's see, Dr. Ashburn, Dr. Gilly, and also from the OASIS office. So that's really going to help everyone have a good understanding of a lot of the immediate resources you need very early on in the semester. Also, throughout these presentations, you're going to have some aha moments about things that have been going on through the spring and the summer. Many of you probably were contacted by your dean at some point, asked some questions about a DF list, course consistency, what's going on. Well, now you're going to see how all of that is coming together. Everything that we were working on throughout the spring and the summer helped inform some of our changes, as well as some new guides to help faculty with online classes, stuff like that. So we have a lot that we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of days and pulling some things together. Today's lunch is catered for you. As soon as Sharon's presentation is over, we will have a catered lunch over in Deeds 104. And then tomorrow, everyone will be having lunch on the new campus. And on Thursday, everyone's invited to have lunch in the cafeteria here. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And if not, I hope you enjoy the next few days of really exciting learning and development for us. Sharon? Good morning. How is everybody?
Good morning. Good morning.
Make sure I have shared. Just be online. Can you see my presentation? Thank you. All right. So I'm Sharon Ward. I am the registrar here at Carolina University, and then we have a lot of new faces in the room. So a little bit about me and my department. So right now, in this building, I am on the 3rd floor in room 306. And then I also have a new enrollment support specialist at Yale Stanford in the office with me as well. She's also the academic advisor for the undergraduate business students as well. She's working with me in 2 different capacities. There's several ways that you can reach me with any requests that you have. The best way is through the general registrar email. So that's just registrar@carolinau.edu. So students, faculty, and staff are directed to use that email for any general requests that maybe myself or maybe Abby would need to see as well to complete. I do also have my ward email. That one I don't use quite as much. That's just direct communication, usually with me and Dr. Burkhardt or Keith.
But anything that needs a paper trail, typically use the registrar email. So that way, if I have other people working on projects that you have needs with, they all see it. My office hours have changed recently. So beginning this semester, my office is open for walk-in assistance for faculty, staff, for students, anyone from 11 to 5. In the morning, I have some administrative responsibilities that I am dedicated to getting processed. So for walk-in times, that begins at 11, still Monday through Friday. Okay, so this is not an exhaustive list of what I do here by any means. But this is the main things that has a contact point with you as faculty members and with students. So new students coming in, I do any transfer credit evaluations. I assign those new students to their advisors and send that welcome email that many of you are familiar with. If they want to change a major, if they want to add a minor, if they need to withdraw from a course or anything like that, I'm the person that assists them with that. There's a form for each one of those things in the portal that they can send to me. I also do grade changes. So most of you are familiar with that. There's a form in the portal for that. So if you ever need to change a final grade in a student's class, that's done through the form flow as well. Any kind of degree audit, edit, so this is for advisors. So if you need a course substitution or a waiver, or it just looks funny, something's not right, I'm the person that you can contact to fix anything on the degree audit. I also do enrollment verification letters, transcript, any kind of record request from a student is fulfilled by me and my team. And then I also oversee graduation. So I give final clearance to the students whenever they are ready to graduate. I do an audit once they do a graduation application to make sure they're ready. I order their diploma, ship their diploma, and I also plan commencement as well. So anything graduation related is handled in my office as well. I also do the course and classroom scheduling, and then I also facilitate any kind of appeal or academic integrity violation committee, anything like that has gone through my office as well. Right. There are some things that I do not do that many people intuitively think that I would do. So this is just a couple to help you out. So students are always asking, especially their advisors, I have a hold on my account. What should I do? Oh my gosh, I can't register for classes. I am not the person that can assist them with that. So 99% of the holds that a student will have is related to their account balance, typically. So if they owe us money, they haven't signed off on their loans, they haven't done their entrance counseling or something like that, that is usually why we have a hold on the student's account. Yes, this does prevent registration, but only the student accounts office can actually remove it. So if a student comes to you as the advisor wanting to know, how can I get registered again, they need to go see student accounts. If that student is domestic, they need to talk to Ms. Bonnie McDaniel. If they are international, then they need to talk to Ms. Suzanne Weers. And that's regardless if they're main campus or if they're an online student. The division is the same. I also do not register students, even though I'm called the registrar. So the advisors actually handle routine registration, so each semester, okay? They do have an advising meeting, do the registration, give course recommendations, all that. I come into play if there's an unusual situation, if there's an override that's needed, that's whenever I step in for registration purposes. So if a course is at capacity, or it's a directed study course and there's an override authorization there. So we limit how many people can go into that course, right? Any kind of barrier that's going to keep a student from registering, if it's a repeat or something like that, then that's when you would approach me to help you with actual registration. Okay. Portal troubleshooting, I can help with a few things, but not very many. I always encourage you to still go to IT if you're having any portal registration issues, because usually it has an IT-related glitch, not necessarily something that I have access to fix. Still feel free to run some stuff by me, though, but you will likely need both of us to troubleshoot anything with the portal. So we have some new things on the horizon, and this one I'm very excited about. So we have signed on with a software company called CourseDog, They fully integrate with our current student information system, which is Gensbar, who also handles our LMS, where our courses are actually taught at. So this is mainly going to be running in my office. The deans and some of the program directors will have a few things that they can do inside this software, but it's really going to streamline a lot of our processes. So a few of the things that CourseDog does is we have predictive analytics with course scheduling. So in the past, the deans and program directors know that usually every semester we have our shared spreadsheet, and this is what we think we need to offer based on where our students are at in the program, this, that, and the other. We've got to look at all the degree audits and all of that. So once we integrate this with Gensbar, the degree audit data will be in CourseDog. We can hit a button, and it's going to spit out a schedule based on what our students need. So it's going to take a lot of that manual work away from us. Then we also have syllabus management. So it's going to streamline our syllabi. It's going to be a storehouse for our syllabi. So a lot of times you have to come to me, you have to come to Dr. Gilly. Hey, I'm teaching this course that Dr. So-and-so taught previously. Can I get their syllabus? I want to see if I can work off of it. They'll all be stored in CourseDog now. We can access any of our archived syllabi. We will also have a standard template for syllabi, so they will all look the same. You know exactly what you need in the syllabus, what doesn't need to be in the syllabus, and there'll be guides on what you can change, what you can't change, so on and so forth. There's also curriculum management and proposal form flow. So for those of you who are involved in academic council, so typically this starts at the director level and goes up. If you have a program edit, a course edit, something that you want to change about your program, right now you need to go into the Google Drive, get that form, fill it out, send it to me, send it to Dr. Burkhardt, send it to your dean. That's going to live in CourseDog now. All those forms going to be pre-built. You just click on one. It's going to be titled for what you actually need it for. Fill it out, and it will send it through the process in the order that it needs to go to. You don't have to wonder, okay, who does this go to next? Let me ask a bunch of people. It's going to do it for you. We also have event scheduling in there. So this is really going to coordinate with student life and academics. So a lot of times Ellie has to come to me and say, hey, we have a student event. I need some classrooms. You know, when is 1 and 5 available? When are there no classes in here? All of that's going to live in one place. So Ellie and I don't have to have our shared spreadsheets and have to work around each other with classes and events. It's going to be in the same place. And she can go in there and schedule events around when the class is already scheduled. So lots of good things coming with this. And finally, and my favorite, is the catalog. So they are going to manage our catalog for us now. So Dr. Gilly is very excited about this, as he does it manually right now, each and every edit. So we'll be able to turn over the catalog content. They're going to have another beautiful site that has the catalog in there. It's going to be more searchable. It's going to have well, it looks a lot better. There's some marketing things that go into it as well. So I'm really excited about having a new catalog. That was going to launch in the 25-26 catalog. So this catalog that we just posted is the last one. That's going to be the format that you're used to right now. All right. So with the 24-25 catalog, we changed a lot of things, enhanced a lot of things, but I want to point out these few right here, as they are kind of the big highlights. Most of this we already have a policy for, but it wasn't really clear, or it wasn't anywhere. It was just kind of living in our heads. We had to come ask me to access some kind of manual to read about it, so we transferred some stuff to the catalog where it's more easily accessible. And so first one is athletes can actually earn course credit for being an athlete here, okay? I was surprised to learn that a lot of our students did not know this, and then I figured out that they didn't have anywhere where it was written for them to find out. So we added this to the catalog. So for every season of participation, a student can get 1 credit hour to a max of 3. So basically they can earn 1 elective course from being an athlete with us. So we put that policy in the catalog. We also removed advanced standing from Piedmont Divinity School. So previously, this was where a student who earned, say, their BA in biblical studies here, they wanted to go into the MA ministry, they could get some advanced standing for their undergraduate work in their graduate program. We are no longer going to do that, so we have removed that policy. I will say that we do have some students who are still in the program who have that. We're obviously going to honor that. We're not going to take away credit from any current students or reentering students. The new students coming in will not have that advanced standing. Catalog year requirements. So if you're an advisor, I'm sure you say till you're blue in the face to your students, you have to follow the catalog that you started in. So if you started in 2021, you need to go back to the 2021 catalog to look at your course requirements. You follow that catalog your whole time here. So I actually put a policy explaining that process to the students in the catalog, so you can point them to that and say, here's the policy. When you enter this year, you follow this catalog until you're done, unless you re-enter and all of those dependables, right? So I added that. I also added the official add, drop, and withdrawal period definitions. So those are on the academic calendar, but a lot of students don't understand what the difference is between adding and dropping and withdrawing. So we put some more clear definitions in there for that. Another question that I get a lot from advisors and students is, can I do a double major? Can I have 2 concentrations? Can I have 2 minors? So I added a policy explaining all the different ways you can combine majors, minors, and concentrations within all of the schools, so you have something in writing that you can refer to during your advising appointments. We also enhanced the grade replacement policy, just added a little more details, kind of cleared up some of the language in there, so it's a little easier to understand. We did the same thing with the attendance and participation, which I'll go into a little bit later. And then the undergraduate minors. So they used to be organized by school, and that kind of led to the belief by a lot of students that they could only declare minors under the Patterson School of Business if they were in the Patterson School of Business, which is not true. Any of our undergraduate students can declare any of our undergraduate minors. So we actually made this own independent page for minors so students can more clearly see what all of their options are. All right, so the academic calendar, so this is on the website. It houses any and all dates, anything important in our university, but the main highlights are here. So whenever the session, semester, or module courses start, when they officially end, when final grades are due, when the add, drop, withdrawal periods are, holidays, breaks, all of that is on the academic calendar. This is accessible on the main website. You do not have to log in to get to this. It's under the academics tab on the main website. I do update this every year, and I have through 2027 posted right now if you want to plan ahead. All right, so I want to go over some basics of our course coding system, prefixes, numbering, all of that, especially since we have some new faculty. Every single university does this stuff differently. So I want to briefly go over what that system is here. So when it comes to section coding, this is a change that we made back in January to make the section code system more reflective of what type of course this actually is. So we have session 1 and we have session 2. We have semester-long courses, and then we have a few module courses. The section code is reflective of when this course is being taught and in what modality. So for session 1 courses, you will see there either be 50 or 60. So a 50 section code means that this course is session 1 and it's in person, it's hybrid. Okay, so you might see MG 24350. You know that that's session 1 and that is hybrid. If you see 60, then it is session 1 online. Okay. Same thing for session 2. We have 70 and 80. So 70 is a main campus hybrid course in session 2, whereas the 80 is session 2 but online. Okay. These semester courses also have their own. We do 10 and 20 there. And then the modules, which we don't have a lot of, usually we just have those in the fall and the spring. We have a module between the 2 sessions and then one after session 2. We usually only teach these at the undergraduate level, so we use U1 and U2. That means undergraduate module 1, undergraduate module 2 is what that means. The leadership residency, which is now also going to be in the DMin as well, so we're just going to call it doctoral residency moving forward. That is technically a module, but it's in the summer. But since it's graduate only, we use G1 and G2, so you know something that's just for the doctoral students. Okay, so this can assist you when you're looking at the course schedule, when you're advising students to know, okay, where are their seats in the online, where they are in the hybrid, what session is this, right there on the schedule with the course code itself. So the prefix system. So undergraduate courses with the prefix, they have 2 letters in the prefix, whereas graduate and doctoral only have 3. And then the code that accompanies that, so all of our undergraduate courses are going to be $100 to $499. Graduate master's is $500 to $699, and then doctoral courses is $700 plus. So if you see MGT 542, you know that is a master's level course. And then if you see LEA 700, you know you're going into the doctoral. Okay. So parent-child courses. So some of us are intimately familiar with this concept. Others are just now being introduced to it with some new courses that you're teaching. So I just want to briefly go over what this term even means to some of you who may be teaching these soon, or if you're not, just so you know what any of us are talking about in conversation. So a parent-child course is also known as cross-listing. You probably have heard that term before as well. So this is when you have 2 courses that are basically the same, but they're either in 2 different majors, 2 different schools, or they're at 2 different levels, but they cover the same content. We're going to teach them together in one classroom. So usually that will be a graduate or undergraduate version of the same course being taught together, a doctoral or master's version being taught together, or they can be at the same level. So a good example is to have PS 301 and CJ 301. That's quantitative data analysis. So they're both undergraduate courses, but they're in 2 majors. It's the same content, so we're going to put all the students in the same classroom, and give the faculty member 1 course shell, so they're not teaching the same thing to 2 groups of students. Okay. So a visual example of this for a parent-child. So we have LEA 700, and then we have LEA 600. So both of these courses are foundations of leadership. One is a doctoral level, one's a master's level. So normally what I do in the School of Leadership is I will schedule these individually, and then I'll combine the course shell and the LMS into one. So that way the faculty member only has to keep up with 1 course shell when they may have 10 doctoral students and 4 master students. Okay. The reason though that we want to have 2 codes for this, not just put them all in the 700 level, is on the student's transcript you want the master's level to actually show. That's what parent-child allows us to do. So in practice, when they're taking the course for the faculty member and the student, you only have to keep up with 1 course shell, 1 classroom, but all of their transcripts will reflect the course code that they actually need to have on their records. That's where the benefit of this comes in. Okay. One important note with this is regardless of which code the student is registered under, whatever I have designated as the parent is what's going to show in the portal. So whenever I combine the 2 course shells, the LMS makes me choose 1 code to display. I can't display both. So just as a rule of thumb, I always choose the higher level one. So if we have LEA 700 and 600, everybody's going to see LEA 700 in the LMS. Okay. So that's just a limitation of the system. So students come to you as an advisor and they're like, hey, I see this weird code on here. I didn't register for that. What is that? That's a clue to you that that's the parent-child course for them. Okay. All right, so modality requirements for main campus students. So I know we've sent some communication out this via email. We've talked about it in various meetings, but I want to go over it again, especially for our new faculty and our new advisors, but it's a good refresher for the rest of us as well. So we're only talking about main campus students who are attending in person. So this has nothing to do with our online students, okay? So we have similar requirements for our domestic and our international F1 students, but there is one main difference that I will point out to you at the end. We'll go through the domestics first. So for any main campus student that is full-time, it's at the undergraduate level, that is 12 credits, so that usually comes out to 4 classes, right? So they have to have 4 classes, 3 of which must be hybrid. They have to come in person for 3 of their classes. That 4th course and any more that they may want to take may be online. For a domestic student, they can register these in any distribution across the sessions. So if they want to have 2 hybrid in session 1, 2 online in session 2, that's perfectly fine. If they want to take all hybrid, that's fine as well. They don't have to have an online course, but most of our students do want to take advantage of that, okay? But they can have all online in one session, all hybrid in one session, as long as there's 3 hybrid in there somewhere, okay? For the master's level students, so they have to have 3 courses per semester to be full-time. 2 of these have to be hybrid. The 3rd can be online. If they really want to be a go-getter and have 4th, they can be online as well, but most students do not do that, okay? For the domestics, both of the hybrids can be in one session, and in the second session, if they want to have just the online course, that's perfectly fine. For the doctoral students, full-time is considered 6 credits, only 2 courses, so 1 has to be hybrid. One big difference for domestic students is in the summer semester, if they want to be all online, they can do that. Now, international students. So main campus undergraduate full-time is still 12 credits, 3 of which still have to be hybrid. The main difference here is that hybrid has to be spread out across the sessions. They cannot be in only online courses in one session. So an F1 student, if they say, I want to take 2 hybrid in session 1 and 2 online in session 2, they cannot do that. There has to be a hybrid one in each of those sessions. Okay, that's the main difference there. Full-time credit hours is still the same, still have to have 3, but that has to have that even distribution to meet set regulation. Okay. At the master's level, still very similar, 3 courses, 2 need to be hybrid. 1 can be online, but again, you have to have a hybrid in session 1 and a hybrid in session 2. Okay. The doctoral students are the ones that kind of get the short end of the stick here when it comes to F1 regulations, because 2 classes is full-time, they have to be hybrid the entire semester. So usually they have to have a hybrid course in both sessions. They don't really get the online option. Now there is one loophole for these students that we can utilize in certain situations, and that is semester-long courses. So especially for the doctoral level students, so in the leadership program, there's one course, RES 801, it's resource design. That is always taught on a semester-long basis. That is the loophole for those particular students. So in that semester, they register for RES 801 is semester long. If they choose that as their hybrid course, that second course that they take, that one can be online because they're fulfilling this semester long requirement of being hybrid with that one other course. Undergraduate and master students can utilize the same loophole if there's a semester long course that they need. That will satisfy one of them, so they can have 2 hybrid courses in one of the other sessions. That 3rd one can be over the semester, leaving one of the sessions open to only online. Are there any questions about these modality requirements? I know that is a lot of details.
Can you share the presentation with us?
Yes, I absolutely can.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, moving on. All right, so course delivery methods and attendance. I am excited about this one. So we have hybrid and online. That's the main 2 types of courses that we have here, right? We don't really have a course anymore that is purely in person. Obviously, an internship is going to be an exception to that, right? But we've moved to hybrid courses and then online. So for a hybrid course, there is at least 1 day a week where the class meets in person. If you have a lab course now, so say physics or chemistry, you're going to have a second day. Right? There's a few in engineering and a couple of other programs that have that. But mostly you're just going to have 1 class meeting a week for your hybrid courses. Attendance must be taken during class for each of your courses. And so if you have one of those 2-day-a-week lab courses, you need to take attendance both of those days. Okay. One thing that's going to be different this semester is with the online courses. So previously, we had the faculty members take attendance in online courses based on a selected discussion board, right? You will not have to do that moving forward. So instead, we are going to track engagement in online-only courses by course submission, okay? So what that means is myself and in the Ashburn Center, we have a report that we're going to run every week, and it actually shows the last assignment submission date for every student in your courses. So we can track if they're attending or not, just based on whether they're doing the work that you've assigned them. You're not going to have to go in every week on a specified day in your online course and say, okay, they did that particular discussion board, let me mark them present. You're not going to have to do that now. Right? Yes.
This is starting this fall.
Yes.
So, am I correct? No more required weekly discussion board.
So you don't have to have a selected one to track attendance. You don't have to do that for attendance.
But are we still required to have a weekly discussion board?
Discussion boards are still desired as part of your course, but they're not going to be, kind of pigeonholed as your attendance tracking method, right? Now, if you still want to make attendance or participation part of the grade in your course, that's perfectly fine. That's your prerogative. But you don't have to select that exact discussion board to be that tracking assignment.
But it has to be a weekly assignment.
Yeah. You have to have something due every week so we can make sure that they engage that week. Yeah. Yes.
Not trying to be a pain in the side, but last I heard was that for the Department of Education, we have to show we professors are interacting with our online students. To me, that sounds like, yes, we dang well better have a discussion board every week and then interact with our students. It's just not for the purpose of attendance.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so you also have to do your discussion.
Yes. So
Okay.
still have a discussion board every week, but you don't have to go into that attendance page and look to see if they did it and then mark them present and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Yes.
So who is going to mark the attendance? We have to go ahead and do, or the registrar?
So in an online only course, you don't have to mark attendance. The faculty member does not have to. You just have to ensure that you have some type of assignment due every week. And I will be tracking for course abandonment, and and I have a report that shows those submissions. And so if I see someone who hasn't submitted something in a couple of weeks, then I'll be reaching out to you about that. Say, hey, have they done anything else? Any other communication? What have you before I take out the class?
Another question. So usually I kept as if they didn't submit, make it a 0. So still you are seeing their actual submission, or even you last meeting you said, if I said something like that, let you know.
Right. Yeah,
because-
I know what you're saying. So yes, so there's some types of assignments that if the student doesn't do it, then whenever it closes, it kind of makes the submission, but it's basically blank. So that shows up on my report, but then I also look at their last login date, and if I don't have a timestamp that matches, then I know they didn't actually do that assignment. That's one of those auto closure things. So yes, I will be able to have a way of tracking that.
Does that mean we no longer have to go in and create those sessions for the online courses like we once had to in the
That is
summer?
correct. You do not have to do that now. Yeah. So the only,
Sorry, you don't have to do what?
so previously in the online courses, you had to go in and create a session on that attendance page so you could even mark them present. That is obsolete now.
Thank you.
So honestly, in your online only course shells, you can just delete that attendance link altogether. You do not need it. That is only needed in your hybrid courses where you're going to have students in front of you. That's the only time you'll use that attendance page. Okay. All right, so this goes into course abandonment, which we have touched on. So course abandonment here. So in a 7-week session course, which is what the majority of our courses are, if a student is completely inactive for 2 weeks, then they have abandoned the course and will be withdrawn. In a semester-long course, then they have to be inactive for 3 weeks. And then in our 1-week module courses, they have to be, I think it's 2 days, is that what I said? Yeah, 2 consecutive days of no activity in the module course to have abandoned, okay? Special note for F1 students, If they have abandoned a course, then that is considered an unauthorized withdrawal for set regulations, and their fees will actually be terminated. It's very serious for the F1 students if they abandon the course. So you may be thinking to yourself, okay, so what exactly defines them being inactive, right? So we have a list here of what kind of keeps them from abandoning, right? So obviously, if it's a hybrid course, then coming to the in-person session, okay, then they are engaging in the course, right? What about online classes? So if they submit any kind of assignment, right? If they post an e-discussion board, if they take an exam or an assessment that's assigned, if you have assigned an interactive webinar, tutorial, lecture type thing, that counts as well. If you have assigned some type of study group project where they have to meet or something like that, that can count as well because it's assigned. And then also, and this does fit the federal regulations, interacting with the courses about academic matters. And this can save us into specific situations. This is very helpful for doctoral students who are in dissertation, right? Because those courses are structured obviously very different than your typical class. So that saves those students there. And then also the student is having an unexpected situation, a health crisis, some kind of emergency where they cannot come to class, but you as a faculty member have determined that you want to give them an extension on an assignment or something like that. That can save you there as well, okay? Because of that, do not assume that I'm going to automatically withdraw someone who appears to have met the criteria for course abandonment. I will reach out to you first before I do that. Because what if they are having a situation, you have given them an extension on a couple of assignments? I'm not going to know that, right? So they may be inactive in the course, but you have an arrangement, okay? So I will run my report. I run it every Tuesday, which is after attendance is due, to see who is inactive. For those students, I'm going to reach out to the faculty member and say, hey, so-and-so hasn't done anything in your class in 2 weeks. Do you have any kind of, special circumstances with them? Have you heard from them? And if you say no, then I'm going to withdraw them from the course. Okay. Any questions on that process?
I do have one on excused absences, but if that's in another part, I'll wait.
It's not my presentation, but it's in someone else's.
Okay, thank you.
Sharon,
Yes.
I have a question about the deduction of marks from the final grades linked to the attendance. Is it still going to be on effect or is it not going to be there?
That part is still there.
Okay.
That stayed in the catalog. So the percent points and stuff is still in that table that's in the catalog. That did stay.
Yeah, when is it going to happen? Like we submit the final grades and is it gonna happen after we submit the grades?
It needs to happen as you submit your final grade.
Okay.
So at the end of the course, whenever you go to submit your grades, before you actually hit submit, when they come to me, you need to make the adjustment there.
Okay.
Because once you hit submit, then we are beyond the point of no return there.
Okay,
Because
so
then you
it's
have to
still
do
going-
grade 64.
Yeah, so for the online students, that's not going to be there because we don't
For-
do in attendance.
Correct.
So only for hybrid students, we have to do that.
Yes. Yes, because for an online student, if they stop attempting or engaging, then that's basically course abandonment, right? Yeah. And then the point reduction is going to come in with the assignments not being done. Now, you can have your late or makeup work policy in your syllabus. So if you want to deduct points for submitting something late, that's your prerogative. All right, so one thing that I want to note here with the engagement and course abandonment is you can have a student who is in a hybrid course of yours. They can come to every in-person session and never do a single assignment online, and they have not abandoned the course. Obviously, they'll get an F, right? But they're still engaging. So that student will not be removed from your roster, okay? They're only hurting themselves, so they'll end up with the F at the end of the course. The flip side is also true. You can have a hybrid student who never comes to any of your in-person sessions, but if they're submitting assignments, I still cannot remove them for course abandonment because they are engaging. Okay. All right, so segue segueing into actual grading. So it is extremely important to keep your grade book up to date. Weekly is what we want to see. Obviously, the big reason is for the students themselves. So consistent feedback, seeing their grade in real time is one of the cornerstones of them growing and learning as a student, right? But there's also some practical applications to that as well. So every week, the provost and the Ashburn Center for Student Success runs the DF report. And the Ashburn Center actually reaches out to every one of those students to see, hey, how are you doing? Do you need tutoring? Do you need resources? What's going on? So if your grade book isn't updated and so someone doesn't actually have an F, they're going to get a very strange phone call, right? I also look at that report as a clue for course abandonment too, right? So I have that report that shows me the timestamps when they submitted stuff and all of that. But we also have those students who they do submit something every single week, but they make an F on it every single time. So I want to monitor that student as well from a success standpoint, okay? So keeping your grade book updated throughout the session is incredibly important. Now, also submitting your final grades has huge implications for some dependent processes as well. So as a reminder, undergraduate and master's courses, they are going to be due on Wednesday. So classes always end on Sunday. That following Wednesday is when undergraduate and master's courses are going to be due, okay? Doctoral level courses and then GE 101 and 102, those are the only two undergraduate courses that are on the next deadline. They are going to be due that Friday, okay? These dates are also on the academic calendar for all of our academic years right now as well. I do send reminders throughout the week, as I'm sure most of you know already, but they are also on the academic calendar if you want to save that. So submitting your final grades in a timely fashion, it impacts a lot, but these are the three main ones. So satisfactory academic progress. So this is something I have to do at the end of every semester immediately. So if I don't have all final grades when I run this report, students' GPAs are not going to actually be correct. So it may show that a student is missing grades and decrease their GPAs to make it look like that they're going on warning or suspension, but that's not actually the case, okay? Flip side is also true. Someone could have finally done great and they're coming out of warning or suspension. I need to know that, and I cannot run this process until I have every single grade from every faculty member in the entire university. I can't do it in pieces. I can't do it by school. I can only do it one time. So this is very, very important. Graduation, and that's not just in May whenever we have commencement. We do a conferral every semester. So I have to confer by a certain date at the end of every semester, and I have to make sure that everyone actually passed their last class before I have their diploma made. And then prerequisite course requirements. And so this not only is at the end of the semester, but between sessions as well. So if we have someone in English Comp 1, I need to know if they failed or not so I can jerk them out of English Comp 2, right? And for any other of these prerequisite type courses. So it's very important to have these by the Wednesday and the Friday, because that will make sure that all these dependent processes can happen whenever they need to. Okay, so incomplete. So I just want to review this policy, especially for our new faculty members to know what the policy actually is. So this is in the catalog. So you can award an incomplete. This is at the faculty's discretion. Okay, so usually the student has maintained a successful record in the course. Something's happened towards the end. They missed the final. They missed the big paper. Something came up, and it's out of their control. Okay. You can assign them an incomplete to get that last assignment submitted. You have up to 6 weeks to give them. You don't have to give them the full 6 weeks, but you can give up to 6 weeks if you want to, okay? At the end of the 6 weeks, if they didn't do the work, then their grade will automatically be turned to an F, regardless of what their grade would have been without whatever was missing. So if by some miraculous calculation, they would have gotten a C without that grade. If you give them an incomplete and they don't do it, that grade is turned into an F. So still use a little bit of caution whenever you're assigning an incomplete because of that reason. Okay. to change an incomplete. So whenever you go to submit your final grades at the end of the session, because submit final grades, you have that confirmation page. You change the student's grade to an I in that little drop down there, and then you hit submit, and the I will come to me. Once the incomplete has been satisfied, then you need to submit a grade change form to me through the portal. Previous grade is I, put the new grade, just in the comments, you just say incomplete satisfied. That's all you need to do. Okay?
Question on incomplete?
Sure.
Unless you're not done with them yet.
Go ahead.
Okay. And this is because can happen that adjuncts don't come back or full-time faculty don't come back. Is there a formal repository for the agreement between the instructor and the student? Something written that says this is what the student needs to complete to finish. Because what can and has happened is a student is granted an incomplete, the instructor's gone, and we have no idea what the student was supposed to do to finish.
We do not have an official form, but I like these suggestions so we can make something.
Because for tracking purposes, it can leave everybody in limbo. And then especially if no other faculty knows of it, you know, if it's just the person's advisor. So yeah, okay, great.
Yeah. So we don't currently have a form that they have to sign or explicitly state what it is. But yeah, I like the suggestion so we can look into that.
Thank you. Oh, one other thing.
Sure.
If Center for Academic Success is automatically reaching out to all students with D's and F's, is that not duplicating efforts, or do we still need to do the early alerts?
Still do the early alert.
And by the way, that's for right up to the last week, is that correct? Even though it's called early alert. Just want to make sure everybody's clear. Just because it's called early alert doesn't really mean it's early. So
Yeah.
anytime they drop to a D or an F is my suggestion for put in an early alert.
And I think that is a good suggestion, because a lot of times we can cross over each other when we have our routine check, right? So I always do mine on Tuesdays. You know, Dr. Ashburn has a day that she runs all of her stuff. But if you notice something on a different time, that early alert can be very helpful, but we also want it for tracking purposes too. So all the early alerts are saved in the LMS system. And we like to have that to be able to show that we have been tracking our struggling students. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so grade appeal process. So I wanted to briefly go over what this process looks like. So if you ever have one, you already have an idea of what is expected of you as a faculty member. Now, this is not in grade detail. If you want every letter and comma, that's in the catalog, but this is the overall process. So a student can appeal a final overall grade in a course, or they can appeal the grade of an individual assignment. The process is essentially the same. They use the same form to do it. So when a student submits a grade appeal, they have to do so within 7 days of being awarded said grade. They fill out a form that's on the portal, and it comes to me. So I will do an initial review of the submission to make sure that it was submitted within the required amount of days from the grade being awarded. They have to submit substantial evidence as to why they think the grade is unfair, or something happened with it. And if everything was provided, it's on time, then I will submit it to the faculty member. So I do this by email every time, so we have a paper trail. I'm not going to come to your office and just say, hey, so-and-so did a grade appeal. It will be through email, and I always use the Registrar email. So I'll present any and all materials that the student had in their submission, and you have 15 days to respond. Okay? So you can either elect to change the grade, or you can elect not to change the grade. That is completely up to you. If you do want to go ahead and change the grade, you just submit a grade change form in the portal. I change the grade. I send an email to the student and say, hey, your grade appeal is closed. We updated the grade to this. Have a good day. All right. If you do not want to change the grade, then I will forward the appeal to the provost, who will make a committee to review the appeal. The committee is going to be 3 members. One of them is a faculty member in the same discipline of the course that is being appealed, and the other 2 have to be outside discipline. So the committee can reject the appeal and say, no, this has no grounds, we don't want to entertain it, and that's the end of the story. Or they can accept the appeal, in which case they can do one of three things. So they can decide that the grade should be changed. They can request that faculty member basically regrade the assignment. Or they can request that a different faculty member in the same discipline grades it as well to have another objective viewpoint on the grade. So the appeal committee has to communicate their recommendation to the provost and myself within 30 days. The provost can accept the recommendation, or they can modify within just a reason, and that has to be in writing. So I will communicate the decision to the student no later than 15 days after the receipt of the recommendation from the committee and or provost. Okay. I will also notify the faculty member as well. Are there any questions on that appeal process? Okay, so FERPA. So we are going to have a required virtual FERPA training due at some point during this semester. I've done it myself. It was very quick, took about 30 minutes. That we are going to require of all faculty. So I will be sending that link out via email soon. You get a certificate of completion at the end that you can download, and we will require that you send that to Keith for record keeping. But just a little bit about FERPA. So all student records are confidential. They are required to be by federal law, and there's a lot of stipulations as to who we can share what with and when. So there is directory information. That is the only information that we can share about a student without asking for their consent first. So that is, their name, their contact information, their major, or any activities like athletics, for example. We can even share their birthplace and their birthday, and then their dates of attendance if they've received a award or a degree and where they attended previously. That is all considered directory information by the federal government. So we can share that without the consent of the student. There's many other things that we cannot share without a consent form, but the main thing that would concern you as faculty members would be grades. Okay. So usually that comes in the form of a transcript or a degree audit or something like that. But that can go into just daily practices. So you shouldn't share grade information in any shape or form with anyone who does not have an invested educational interest in the student, as the wording in the law. An example of that is who has an interest. That would be other administrators in the university, like the registrar, the provost, or even the president, or the Ashburn Center. They want to track grades for student success, right? That's someone who would have an interest in their education, so someone that works here. But we still have to be careful. So who would not have an interest by this law's standard anyway? So let's say you're an academic advisor and you're looking at their degree audit. It does not make sense. Something looks funny. So you reach out to your friend who's also a faculty member and say, hey, can you look at this degree audit? I don't know what is going on with this thing. Do you have any suggestions? If they're not also the student's advisor, that is not okay. All right. So let's just say, for example, that Dr. Carr has a student. She doesn't know what is going on with the degree audit, and she asks Dr. Fernando, hey, can you look at this real quick? Dr. Fernando has nothing to do with the School of Education. You have nothing to do with the School of Engineering. That is not permissible. However, Dr. Railsback is the backup advisor for all of your students. Her name is on that degree audit. In that case, she has an interest, right? It would be okay if you'd ask her opinion, okay? Another very easy mistake to make is if you're in here and you're teaching and you have a course up on your monitor, you have your PowerPoint up or whatever, you take a little break and you want to go into your course shell to do some stuff during that break, but you forget to turn the projector off and you click on the grade book. That's a FERPA violation. Anyone who was still sitting in the room could glimpse the grades real quick, even if you caught it really fast and shut the projector off, right? That is technically a FERPA violation. So that's what I mean, anything grade related cannot be shared about the students without their consent. Okay, so that's just a very practical example of where we can easily and unintentionally have a grade violation. So that's one of the reasons why we want to do the FERPA training is things that you don't even think about, things that seem so normal. Hey, this degree audit looks funny. Can you help me type thing? So we were going to do this review to help all of us kind of stay educated and remember all of the many, many ways that we have to protect ourselves. Yes.
What about a dean assisting with reviewing an audit if a faculty member does it, but the dean is not second advisor on that student? Is that okay for the dean to assess?
Yes, dean would be considered to have interest because they're over the whole school, but yes, thank you for asking that, yes. So some more examples is a direct supervisor, it is implied that they would have an interest in students, right? So the dean of that school, so yeah, so if Dr. Morgan wants to ask, you, even if you weren't each other's secondary, that would still be fine, yes.
Thank you.
Sharon, I have a question.
Yes.
So in my school, let's say I'm a quantitative researcher. That's pretty much my strength. And I have a student that's a doctoral student or candidate that's, for doing a phenomenological study. They write something that don't really sound right. So I reach out to one of my chairs that's their wheelhouse and say, hey, can you take a look at this paragraph and make sure I'm not losing my mind with what I'm reading? Is that okay?
Yes,
Where
I assume there wouldn't be a grade on that
Right.
document.
Right.
Yes.
Now the chair or the faculty member may see the feedback that I've given, that I've already, okay, because that happens a lot in my school. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, of course, and yeah, so the feedback is not protected by federal law. Grade is.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So as long as I don't do a screenshot of, hey, this is what she got at the end or he got at the end, then that's completely fine.
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Then I'm not going to jail.
No, you're not.
Not for that.
Yes.
I'm new. Is there any examples of FERPA violations that Caroline has experienced that prosecuted?
Thankfully, we have not gotten to the point of any kind of fines or prosecutions or anything like that. We have had some in the past, and those faculty members are not here. Any others?
I know you and I have talked about this, but it may be helpful for other people who are new parents.
Yes, thank you.
Because I quite frequently have moms that, is my child taking the right courses, and I know you and I have talked about, is there a way for me to see if they've signed a release to let their parent, for me to be able to talk about that?
Sure. So this is mainly for academic advisors, but just faculty members can be asked this as well too, right? So right now we don't have a repository for the forms that everyone can access because it's located in J1 and not everyone has J1. We are working on that to put it in a different location where all the faculty could be able to search that. IT is working on that. But for now, I have access to all FERPA forms and so does Kaylee Barrage in Student Services. So if you're an advisor, a mom calls or emails or whatever, says, hey, my kids, one of your students, I want to know how they're doing, or, are they in the right classes? You cannot talk with them yet until you can confirm that they have signed their FERPA release form. So because that would imply that they're asking about grades and this and that, right, which is protected information. And whenever a student enters the university, they do several forms with student services. One of them is a FERPA release form, which they're signing saying, hey, this person or this person, you can talk about my stuff with them, okay? And we keep those on file. So if you have that situation, you can ask me or Kaylee to look up and see, hey, this mom, her name's Felicia, can you look on Jack's form and see if you put Felicia down? If you did put Felicia down, then you say, I'm sorry, I can't talk with you alone about your son or daughter's performance, but if you want to get them on the phone, then that's fine. If the student's present, they don't have to sign the form, okay? They do not have to designate anyone if they don't want to. And it doesn't have to be a family member if they do. They can designate anybody on that FERPA form. It can be anybody of their choosing. Okay. There is a slight loophole with this one for financial aid purposes, but it would be very hard for those of us in this room to know when this is the situation or not. If you have a domestic student who's using federal aid and they're considered a dependent, which is under 24, then technically you can talk to them. But we're all not necessarily going to know that. Usually Stephen Buckland or Ms. Bonnie McDaniel is the only people that's going to have access to that information. So I would suggest going the route of just seeing if they have a form or asking for the student to get on the line. Any other questions?
So let's say parent came with the student.
I'm sorry?
I'm an advisor, so parent comes with the student and they want to discuss grade or something else.
And they're with the student?
With the student.
Yes, if the student's present, then you don't have to worry about the form.
Yeah, I always used to ask, is your mom authorized to be in here? Listen.
Yeah.
Unless they're under 17 someone's.
Correct.
I mean, under 18 someone's.
Right, which during the admissions process, they would have signed some paperwork kind of relinquishing that, but nevertheless, we don't have that too often. But yeah, if the student is present, then you don't have to ask about the form and all of that. Then you can just say, you know, hey, are you okay if we talk openly with your mom here? That's all you need to do.
So is there a way student to resubmit the FERPA if they want?
Yes, they can do multiple submissions. So whenever they sign up, they go into the portal to submit the form. They can submit it multiple times. So if at a later date, you know, they only designated mom and dad wants to talk to, they can go in and do a new one that has dad on there too. Yes. Yes.
So I assume database has only the latest one.
So the database, it doesn't have an end date, so it will have all submissions.
Okay.
Right now, only a few of us can access where this is. And so right now, it's myself and Kaylee. So you can feel free to reach out to either of us. IT is working on moving that to somewhere where we can give you all access to make it a lot easier. Okay. Any other questions about FERPA? All right, so this is just a friendly reminder to my advisors in particular about the welcome emails that I sent. So while they do look like they're from a template, because they are, there is personalized information in each one of these that can greatly help you. So if there are pending transfer credits or already posted transfer credits for the student, I state that in the email if that's the case. I also attach a summary of the ones I'm bringing over. It will state if they are a resident, a commuter, if they are online, if they are domestic, or if they're international. I put that information in there as well. Obviously, their student ID number is in there, so you can find them on your advising list. And then I also put if they're a returning student. So, you know, they got their BA in criminal justice, now they're coming back for the MS terminology. I'll say, welcome back, glad to have you again. And I try to keep them with the same advisor that they had before, if that advisor advises the new program. So I'll put that in there if they are a dual enrollment student, which we don't have many of those, but if they are, I will state that as well. And if they have any other special situations, such as they're a returning student, but they have holds. Well, obviously you can't register them if they already have holds. I'll still send the welcome email, but I'm going to say to the student, hey, Dr. So-and-so is your advisor, they can assist you with registration once your hold is removed. So I'll put, you know, special things like that in there as well. So if you get a welcome email, read through the whole thing. You can get a lot of clues about what you're getting into with the student before you send your initial welcome email. Another note about that is please remember that you need to BCC the registrar email and the admissions email on the first email that you send to that student after you receive this welcome email. We are tracking when that first email goes out and when the student responds, because we all know students say, hey, I never got an email and I'm not registered. And then we have, you know, 10 emails that we can show them, hey, we've been reaching out. That is the purpose of that, so we can have that paper trail for all the students. So I track that, and so does admissions as well. Okay. Yes.
Just seeing commuter on there brings up a question to me. We don't treat them any different with regard to enrollment, but they're all hybrid if they're listed as main campus, whether commuter
Right,
or
so when it
residential.
comes to the modality requirements we went over earlier,
Yeah.
all you need to know is, are they main campus and are they domestic or international? The residents and the commuters have the same modality requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I have another question, not on the welcome
Okay.
email. So we had some incident recently. Student asking, is my credit transferred? What kind of credits you are transferring? Only the college or community college or the high school? What sort of things?
Okay,
Credits?
so, all of the transfer credits do come through me. I do the evaluation before they ever get to you. So you can feel free to refer them back to me if they have questions on what they were or were not awarded. But to answer your question, I consider credits from community colleges, universities, any type of higher education institution. They have to be accredited by somebody. So we have this transition going on with the Department of Ed of regional versus institutional versus programmatic. We don't make the distinction anymore either. So as long as they're accredited by somebody, then I'm happy with that. The course has to be equivalent in credit hours and has to be equivalent, obviously, in content, right? And then for undergraduate students, they have to have a C or better. For master's upwards, they have to have a B or better. So those are the criteria that I'm looking at whenever I'm doing a transfer evaluation. However, we do have the 50% rule and the 10-year rule that can sometimes cut off a student's credits even if they met those other criteria. So for example, the 50% rule is we cannot transfer in more than half of a degree. So if you have a bachelor's degree that's 120 credits, typically we're not going to bring in more than 60 unless there is a very good justifiable cause. An example of a good justifiable cause is, let's say they're coming into the BA criminal justice, they have an associate's degree in criminal justice, which is usually about 73 credits. They have a very high GPA. I will consider more credits than just the half in instances like that. But if they're a student who's been to 4 different community colleges and has a C average, that's not a candidate for extra credits. Also, we won't take credits that are older than 10 years. If they took classes, more than 10 years ago, unless it's part of a conferred degree, like an associate's degree, then I'm not going to consider those.
So what about high school?
So for high schools, it's not technically the high school credit that they're getting credit for, but they may have taken it while they were in high school. A lot of students do not understand that difference. So you have advanced placement courses, and you have dual enrollment, and then you have CLEP type exams. So we can give credit for some AP courses. Typically that's algebra, English comp, something like that. We have to have a separate transcript showing their advanced placement scores. Their high school transcript is not enough. And that's usually what bars a lot of these students from getting their credits early on, is because they don't realize that you have to have a separate scorecard. Same thing with the CLEP exams. They have to actually order the CLEP exam transcript. For dual enrollment credits, which is what I see most often, so they were junior, senior, they went to community college and also took college credits. In order to have those evaluated, I need the college transcript. Some high schools will put the classes on their transcript as well, but not all of them do. But even then, I cannot award credits based on the high school transcript because they are not the awarding institution. Yeah, so that's another block that a lot of students don't get up front, so that may be why you're getting some of those questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes.
When it comes to transfer credits, so for example, if someone graduated more than 10 years ago, say with a master's degree, and they wanted to transfer those credits, again, that's 10 years, but they have been working in the field, there's kind of that, I don't know what we call it, earned credit, I don't remember exactly what terminology in the catalog is. How do we kind of balance those two things?
So it definitely has to be part of a conferred degree to even consider going outside of the tenure rules. So you're correct in that. I look at the subject matter first off, and then I bring in subject matter experts. So for your programs, I would ask you to come in on this. A good example of where we may treat students a little differently is, especially in your field where technology is evolving incredibly rapidly.
Yeah.
What they may have learned 10, 12, 15 years ago might be obsolete at this point, right? So that's where you come in as a subject matter expert to say, yeah, this is not relevant at all anymore. Whereas in the divinity school, if we have somebody who has, Master of Divinity, the Book of James has not changed in a very long time. So we may consider those credits a little more readily than we would another field, right? So I would look at subject matter and I would bring in somebody from the school who is more active in the field, obviously, than I would be in anything to help me make a decision. Yeah. Yes.
Sharon, can you clarify, so when we're going over the degree audits and we know one of our advisees didn't pass a course that they took at CU, should that F show up on the degree audit, or is there another place that it would show up?
The F is going to show up at the very bottom of the degree audit under non-applied. So it's not going to, so let's say it's a required course, so it's actually has a static place in the degree audit typically. If they make an F, it's going to go down to non-applied. You'll see it down there. Where it is normally in the degree audit, the title of the course will kind of look like it's in bold print. Kind of stand out a little bit, and so that's kind of going to clue you in to scroll down to look at non-applied to see if it was a failed grade. Now, once you register them for the repeat, then that gold lettering is going to come up there, and you will see 0.0 for the credit hours. That's another clue that it's being repeated, because we don't know if they're actually going to earn the 3 or 4 or whatever yet. They are repeating.
And the text that is in bold on the degree, is it a different color than black? Is it going to be in red? No. So can you just clarify, so if they don't pass one course, then they're allowed to take it again one more time?
So it depends on the degree level that we're at. So for undergraduate or for graduate, as to what the grade replacement rules are. So if you're talking undergraduate, we'll go with that example first. So an undergraduate can repeat a D, an F, or a WF. They cannot repeat a C. Whereas a graduate student can repeat a C. And obviously the WF. Okay.
And that can be repeated one time.
So, yeah, getting to that. So for a C or a D, they only have one attempt, but if it's an F, then they have multiple attempts. And here's the caveat. If they are using federal aid, then federal aid is only going to pay for one reattempt. So let's say they make an F, they want to take it a second time, federal aid will cover that. But what if they make an F again? So they have one more attempt, federal aid is not going to cover that. Okay. So whenever you're advising a student and you know that they're a domestic student that may be using that, always throw that in there. Like, hey, really make sure that the second attempt is going to be your last attempt, because it's going to get uglier as we go on. Right now, international students aren't using federal aid, so it's going to be at the same time every time. If they fail twice, but on the third time they make whatever the minimum grade is for that particular course, the first F will be taken out of their GPA calculation, but the second one will not. Does that answer your question?
So, and then you said graduate, so that explanation was for graduate students.
So where the difference with the graduate students is they can be a C onward, whereas the undergraduate is just a D onward. Okay. Now with the graduate students, the aid is still part of the deal there. When it comes to graduate students, some schools have school level requirements as to how many times that they can repeat. So that's where the difference comes in with a master's course. Your school's not one of them, but there are others. Like school leadership has more grade requirements than others.
So if we need clarity, so yeah, I'll just email you.
Okay, is there another part you need me to address now?
So yeah, can you explain for the School of Leadership what the distinction is for retaking a course that a student has not passed?
So they have a limit as to how many Cs you can even make in the entire program. Okay, so if you make a C once, but then you make Bs and upward for the rest of the program, you're fine. You make that first C, then in another course, you make another C, now you have to repeat one of them because you can only have one C in the entire program. So it can kind of change with them as to whether you even need to grade replace or not, based on how many Cs in your entire transcript you actually have. Okay. When it comes to dissertation courses, they can only fail so many times before they're gone. Okay. Because at that point, you're running into 150%.
I have a question, but I don't know whether I should ask here or not. Let's say calculus, some student failing. He's failing again, and he's failing again, calculus 1. Our courses based on calculus 1. If they didn't do that, see or above, we cannot offer engineering classes. So what is the scenario such time? And we are having international students lot, then are they going to stay another 1 year or what? What kind of?
So they can repeat a course up to 3 times. If they have all of their attempts and they still have not passed the course, they're no longer allowed to repeat the course. It is a prerequisite to the rest of the program. They need to find a new program.
Okay.
Because if they can't pass calculus, I don't think they're going to do well in any of your classes.
Exactly. Okay.
Any other questions? The rest of my time is for questions.
Are we allowed to ask about other things? Like I've got a kind of a specific case, but I've got a student who wants to take more classes than the threshold will permit.
Are they wanting to do 2 of your tracks?
No, they want to finish their degree by the spring, end of spring, and one of the courses they're taking is a practicum course, and it's a lot of credits. It's 6 credits, and then they want to load up the other classes, so they're going to max out on their, it's like over 18 credits technically,
Okay.
but it's not technically over 18 class, and it's not, it's not like over a bunch of classes, but they feel like they can manage like 5 classes. I told them, he's like, hey, it's kind of risky. Are you sure? And they said, I want to do it. They said they've done it before, so.
Okay, yes, so that is also in the catalog. So anytime a student wants to take more than 18 credits, and usually we're talking about undergrads, right?
Yep.
Then they have to get registrar approval. So you as the advisor, then the student themselves in the portal can register up to the 18 credits, and then you're going to get a warning message after that that's not going to let you register anything else. At that point, the student needs to email the registrar email, and they need to say, hey, I've registered for this list of courses. I would like to take these other courses. So I'm asking for approval for course overload, is what that's called.
Okay.
It is credit-based, it's not number of course-based, which I understand for some programs that have 6 to 9 credit courses, that is a little difficult. So they just need to specify, I want to register for this other course, and then I review their records and I can approve or deny. If I approve, then I will register the remaining courses for you since I have the override capability.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've another question, and it's kind of related to that similar situation about taking a course. I have a student that I was, they were like inactive in the system for a while, and it seems like they failed certain courses a few too many times, but they still want to be in this major, but it's one of those tricky situations. It's kind of like, well, you're not doing that great, but maybe you need to find a new program, but they still want to do this program, but they've failed too many times on that particular course. So I don't know if it's something that you can override. I sent you an email about it because of the particular case, but and I think you were just saying like it's more of a money thing, right?
Well, from
and
their
financial aid?
early hours, from theirs, we just want them to be aware of all the ramifications they may face, right? So that's where just from an advising standpoint, we are going to mention, if you have a third attempt, if you're using aid, it's not going to cover it, just so you know. That's all we're going for there. Now, if you have a core course that is required in your major, then they have 3 attempts, right? If they fail on the third attempt, well, now they can't pass a core course, and now they're stuck in your major. In the catalog, it does state you can petition the dean of the school to take a 4th attempt, and it is at their discretion if they want to approve or deny that. I've only seen that once, and it's students still failed the 4th time, but they may surprise us, right? That is there, so it will go to the dean if they want to petition for a 4th time. Oh, so we have several safeguards in place that's going to kind of force the student out of the major right now. We're going to have to watch them struggle for a while before they come into place, but at the end of the day, the students are adults and this is their education, right? So if they have their 3 failures, they can petition. If they fail the 4th time or it's not approved, they're stuck in the major, so they need to change their major. Likely, they will go on academic warning and then suspension if they have too many Fs, because that's going to come into play there. Your program does have a lot of 1-credit courses, so if they're failing your labs, for example, it's going to take a little while longer to go on warning because they're not accruing that much of a completion rate difference, right? A 1-credit course is not going to impact the GPA as heavily as a typical 3-credit course, right? So satisfactory academic progress is going to catch them, and then the 150% rule is going to catch them. That's going to be last once, because if you have a certain number of credits, you can only attempt up to 50% more than what it takes to actually complete the degree, right? They're going to hit that after so many Fs. Okay, so these things are going to eventually push them out of the program. Now, as an advisor, which it sounds like you're already doing, you can catch them early on and say, hey, if you're doing poorly in all these core courses, this might not be the major for you, and I highly suggest that you do that. But at the end of the day, we can't force them to change their major until these policies come and hit them in the face, so to speak.
All right. Well, thank you. That was so clear and so helpful. And I forgot about the petition to the dean, and I think that's probably where this student is gonna be at after petition or find a new path.
Yeah, just have them follow the process.
Okay, thanks for the reminder. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Any other questions? And feel free to ask me other things than what I've gone over. If I went over everything, we'd be here all day, so I just gave you the highlights today. Yeah.
Could I mention a special circumstance for advisors who might not know
Sure.
of your many talents?
Sure.
So yesterday I had a transfer student for whom I could not find 4 courses to keep her full-time, and she was an athlete. Absolutely nothing on the books that would fit. I could find only 2. But went to see Sharon, who knows thinking outside the box stuff we wouldn't know. Okay, so I advise you, before you ever say, sorry, you have to be part-time or whatever to a student, always check with Sharon first, because Sharon was able to think outside the box and came up with courses that were offered that could be substituted for, in this case, the professional elective courses. I would never have known that. Okay, so.
And stuff like that is certainly case by case, right? We don't want to make a standard all the time practice of, hey, well, you can take this instead, right? But we want the student to be successful, and they have to meet all of the regulations that are imposed upon them based on their status, right? So I am always willing to look at a student with you to see if we can come up with something to serve the student and help them be successful. That is always going to be my #1 goal, because I mean, that's why all of us are here as students. We wouldn't have jobs without them, right? So I definitely want to make sure that we cover all bases, think outside the box, bounce ideas off of each other, especially when it comes to course registration. I've certainly open to that. So if you ever run into an interesting situation, and usually, like with Dr. Kern, it's going to be the transfer students that we run into this with, because as you all know, as advisors, whenever you come in with 60 credits and we have our course rotation, they're going to have holes in their schedule sometimes, right? We have to get pretty creative to keep them either full-time or with their modality requirements, you know, if they're an athlete, if they're F1, or if they're this or that. So yes, certainly come to me for any brainstorming. I'm certainly open to that. Are there any other questions? Yes.
When will us anticipate the course dog access?
Sorry, what was that?
When can we roughly get the course dog access?
To get the courses for when?
Course dog access to see.
Oh, boy.
Roughly, I know. Still.
So for the course dog, it will take us 9 to 10 months to integrate with Gensbar.
Okay.
We're a month into it. So it's going to be a while. It's taken about 7 to 8 hours of my week every week. Well, the entire 9 months. Then we will go into production testing, which is going to be a few weeks, so I can work out all the inevitable bugs, you know, that comes with any new software. So just to be safe, I would say probably next fall. Yeah, that's when we can expect that. Yes.
Is part of that process kind of human checking? I know we've been doing this process by hand for a long time, but will we have the opportunity to just make sure that the listing matches kind of what we've developed as faculty as well?
Yes. So I'm going to, once we get to the testing point, I'm going to recruit people from all different areas to test literally anything you can think of. The common occurrences, the not so common occurrences, and then we do have a lot of checks in place, especially for the curriculum and the syllabi and stuff like that. They're going to go through many different people before it actually goes live. Yes. Yes. Any other questions for me?
I have one.
Sure.
So, is there a parent-child list published? As an advisor, I would like to know what are the courses, course listed.
I have a list of what has been a parent-child before. There is not a definitive list of what must be parent-child, though. We don't have anything like that. So the parent-child course is more of a solution to a common issue than it is a required practice, right? So typically the reason that we even want to do parent-child is if you have two similar courses that are both on the lower end of enrollment, you want to maximize the faculty members' time, students' time, and everything else, right? So we combine them. But if both PS 301 and CJ 301, the same course, have 35 students in each one, then we might keep separate that particular semester. So I don't have a definitive list for you because we might not always parent-child a pair every semester whenever we would some other times. But I do have a list of commonly paired courses, yes.
So where can we access it, or we have to reach you all the time?
I can't give you the entire list, but if there's particular pairs you're wondering if you can do, or if you want to anticipate, then you can email me, and if there's courses you're wondering about, sure, I can let you know if it's ever been done. Any other questions? Okay. Well, it looks like we have a bit of a reprieve before lunch, but I'm available if you think of something else. Come up here and ask me, let me know, and I am happy to chat.
Thank you.
That's the only question.
You have explained everything so well.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So, yeah.